one is all the talk right now with moms and dads. A controversial book written by a Tennessee pastor and his wife is coming under fire this morning. It's called To Train Up a Child, and it's sparking outrage among child advocacy groups who say that the method pretty much amounts to child abuse. Fox's Jill Monier has more.
Pastor Michael Pearl and his wife Debbie live on a 100-acre farm in a quiet Amish community in Pleasantville, Tennessee. That's about 2.5 hours east of Memphis. But the remote location doesn't make them immune from death threats.
Got one the other day, said your whole family ought to die. Everybody in your church ought to die. So we get letters like that, emails from time to time.
The Pearls, who are originally from Memphis, have come under fire since their book, To Train Up a Child, has been linked to the deaths of 3 children across the country. The book teaches parents to use a switch along with other techniques to make their children obey. The Pearls say it's as easy as training a dog or a horse.
Yes, I compare child training to animal training because the parallels are significant.
Page 1 starts with the words, switch your kids. Other chapters are titled The Rod, Safety Training, Child Labor, and Religious Whips. The Pearls say the book is guided by the teachings of the Bible. The book and others they've written are stacked in a warehouse on their farm. More than 670,000 copies have been sold.
He that spareth the rod hateth his child.
The Pearls say a rod can be anything from a tree switch to a spatula. In their book, they say use the rod as a magic wand. They say the rod is a gift from God. Use it as the hand of God to train your children.
Like a dowel rod. Have you ever seen a dowel rod? A dowel rod with a spoon on the end of it. So that'd be a rod. This would be a rod. It's got a little rubber thing on the end of it, and this little piece of flexible tubing here would be a rod as well. It's very light. This little instrument right here is not going to break any bones. It's not going to cause any deep bruising. It's not going to tear the flesh. But that stings. Ooh, that.
But in the book, Michael Pearl writes, if you have to sit on him to spank him, do not hesitate and hold him there until he has surrendered. You are to rule over him as a benevolent sovereign. Pearl compares his children to proud soldiers and brags about using word association to potty train their children, including their 3-month-old. Our children were so well trained to the voice command we had to be careful not to say the words at the wrong time. We could be bragging to our neighbor, say the magic word, and possibly induce a release. In the chapter on safety training, Pearl talks about coaxing his toddlers over to see the flames of a fire. He writes, they always wanted to touch it, so I held them off until the stove got hot enough to inflict pain without deep burning. When heat was just right, I would open the door. The child would inevitably run to the stove to touch it. Just as his hand touched the stove, I would say hot. It was so effective thereafter. If I wanted to see them do a backflip, all I had to do was say hot. They would even turn loose a glass of iced tea.
It's just so frightening to me. If you make me angry.
Barbara King, the executive director of the Exchange Club that deals with child abuse in Memphis, read the Pearls book.
This is child abuse to me. If they did this to an adult, it would be assault. The total submission of these children to an adult's will, especially when they are just infants almost and have no concept of what that is being done to them or why.
That was Jill Monier reporting. Some people across the country who may have taken Pearl's advice too far. According to investigators, all 3 children who allegedly died at the hands of their parents were regularly hit with plastic tubes. The children were all adopted and homeschooled, and investigators say their parents all owned the book by the Pearls. But the Pearls say it's unfair to blame the extreme actions of a few on their book.